Where's the little clicker? If I can use the clicker. All right. So one, thank you for braving the weather. Yes, my two boys are out at home playing right now. It works when your wife is in education that it kind of balances out. So when the kids are out, she's out as well. So I've got a built-in mom and babysitter for them today. But so part of the fun for me is it's tough to kind of encapsulate everything because reading off all the different things we're involved with can take a monologue. But the fun is it's all focused on good. And so when I look back in my life and everything that we're doing with the Lipscomb Pitts Breakfast Club, there's a whole piece of this that, yes, giving back is the right thing to do, but when you start laying strategy in, it actually makes a huge difference for getting you where you are today to where you want to be tomorrow. And so that's a part of what we're going to share today is some of the trends in corporate philanthropy that are going on so you kind of understand the backstory and perspective. But then we're going to get into some of the strategy that you can use so that when you are giving back, yes, it's the right thing to do, but it will actually get you ahead in your business and in your personal life as well. So I'm going to show this little video to kick it off because this gives you some perspective about what we do. It's old, I warn you. We haven't had a chance to update it, but
I didn't realize the seeds were going to take on their roots and grow so fast, and people would respond this greatly, and they would mobilize the entire community, sit behind it, and how blessed 300 kids just a few months of that time from that thing is just mind-blowing, and it's just exciting. We're helping a lot of less fortunate kids, about 300 less fortunate kids, getting new shoes, new socks, and just making their day by being able to help them wash their feet, sign of humility and compassion for kids and people in the community.
It was not planned originally, but you can see there's a lot of planning went into it. And the Samaritan Dance folks are fantastic. Breakfast Club folks all came together and had a lot of volunteers here.
I committed to him that not only would we want to help support the event, but I wanted to feel the humility and be a part of just helping out. Because the story is beautiful. And when you hear how many people he's touched, just be a small part of it.
Dr. Martin Luther King that has this unit of this beloved community. And I really think the Breakfast Club actually, I really believe they embody what that beloved community is. Because now we've seen people from different backgrounds. I mean, we've seen executives all come together to be here and wash the feet of the impoverished kids and members.
So the reason I like showing that is a couple things. One is Manny Ahome, he's the founder of Samaritan's Feet. He left a lucrative job in the IT business to start this organization. Over 6 million pairs of shoes have been given to kids around the world because of his efforts. So absolutely amazing what he's doing. But he goes around the nation and around the world doing these shoe distributions, and he absolutely loves coming to Memphis because whereas most groups are faith and church organizations doing this, here it's the business community. And I think it shows, one, just a level of servant leadership, but also, two, the power of being able to bring all of these executives, professionals, sales executives, retirees, even college students, and even sometimes grade school students coming out to work together to make our city better. And the beautiful thing about that, too, as an organization, and we'll talk about why this is so important, is we make it really easy. So the kids are already organized. They get bussed in at different times. The shoes are already purchased. We team up, obviously, with the Grizzlies. So this year we had Tony Allen and Mike Conley out there, so the kids absolutely love it. But they come in on a cold January day wearing flip-flops because that's all they can afford with their family. They have to make that difficult choice between putting food on the tables and shoes on their feet. And they come in, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, they're greeted by love. And they walk out of there saying it's the best day of their lives. And for you as a business leader, for you as a sales rep, for you as a human, you get to basically show up, show love, and we do it during a business day. So we usually do it 3:30 to 5 on a Tuesday or a Friday. So there's a valid business reason to be there because you're obviously there networking with CEOs and executives. But the beautiful thing is that it's a win-win. It's a win-win for everybody. The kids say it's the best day of their lives. The city, we win because all of a sudden we're sharing love. But you as a business person win as well because you're literally rolling up sleeves right next to people like the HR director for AutoZone, the CEO who you saw in there of Smith & Nephew, the CEO of companies like Master IT, our executives, Johnny Pitts. I mean, all these people, even the mayors come out. And it's like that's the beautiful thing about what we're trying to do and what you can do using a lot of these strategies is basically it's like a cake. You can't separate the icing from the cake from all the different layers. It just tastes really good. And when you package it all together, you can make a huge difference by doing just a little bit more than what you're already doing by adding a layer of purpose. And so that's a big part of what we try to do. So here's a quick snapshot just so you have perspective of who we are, what we do. We started as a business networking organization. Breakfast Club of America was a franchise based in Florida, or a franchise company based in Florida. It started here in Memphis by a lady that just bought the franchise rights to the Mid-South. So it started here in 2005. She turned to Johnny Pitts of Lipscomb Pitts Insurance. Even our own agency thought he was crazy for putting his name, as a title sponsor on this networking organization and getting it going. But the whole idea was it was business relationships, period. That was the tagline. Business networking, no purpose, no higher goal, nothing else to it. About 12 businesses involved, 8 breakfasts a year we get the signature breakfast, and the signature breakfast is kind of where we get the Breakfast Club name. You bring in a national guest speaker, and it's all business networking. So fast forward to 2007, the end, Breakfast Club of America, based in Florida, said, you know what, we're not making the kind of money we make, so we're going to dissolve, and all around the nation, you franchisees can buy out your rights and do whatever you want. So Johnny saw that as the green light. I'm going to buy out the franchise rights from corporate. I'm going to buy out the franchisee who's really not from Memphis and her heart's not in it. I'm going to bring it in-house, and now let's see what we can do with this thing. Magically, that was right around the time that my wife and I were moving here to Memphis, coming out from California and working with Dick Clark and some of the icons like Merv Griffin doing celebrity tennis tournaments. My background was media, corporate marketing, philanthropy, and I grew up in the insurance business with my dad, so ironic that kind of all those sides come together. My dad still gets a big kick out of that because I never wanted to work in the insurance business, and now I'm one of the members of the LLC for Lipscomb Pitts Insurance. But the bottom line is that we had a chance to rewrite history. And so that's the time that moving to Memphis, I didn't know a single person when we moved here. But I did exactly what we'll talk about is I just started getting involved. I started volunteering, started working with organizations, started working with nonprofits, saying, hey, I'm a marketing guy. Whatever you need help with, I'll help you out, whether it's promoting events, whether it's doing things on social media, whether it's simply sharing ideas. Whatever I can do to help, I'll help. And so by doing that, that's how I met Johnny Pitts. Was helping out with the Boy Scouts. That's something near and dear to his heart. He found out that I was doing really well with them and living up to what I said I would do. And he said, hey, I want to talk to you about this breakfast club. I'd seen the one out in Los Angeles, so I knew the guts of it, knew what it was. And basically he said, hey, can you help me rewrite the business plan, the marketing plan? So when I looked, being fresh to Memphis, I looked at the gaps. We picked 5 gaps that we still work on today, so we're actually still using the exact same business plan that we wrote 7 years ago. But basically, I'll get into that and then I'll kind of back up a little bit. These are the 5 gaps that we identified. And it's important to understand this because I think it'll apply to you. One is strategic corporate philanthropy. So getting all these companies on the same page to make a difference together. Breaking down these big million-dollar, multi-million-dollar projects into bite-sized pieces so all of us can play a part. The other thing is, which you are already really good at because you identify needs and you identify gaps, being in sales, is I've got to figure out what you're good at, what resources you have available, but also, too, where you want to go. And actually, that's the biggest piece of this, is when you look at Memphis as a city, MSA-wise, 1.316 million people, a big part of us getting together on the same page is figuring out, okay, what are you good at, what do you have available, but also, too, where do you want to go so we can align passion? And together, we can get there. But that's a big part of what we do. Connecting the quadrants of our city, government, education, nonprofit, business, faith. Getting them all together, we do seating charts so we know we're forcing the hand. You're sitting with headmasters and principals, executive directors, CEOs, also to the government and the dignitaries and the church leaders as well. Next one is simplifying engagement. All of our events are totally free. That was a game changer for us. We said we don't want to be a networking organization that charges you a ticket price to come out to anything. We want to be able to look you in the face as a retired citizen, as a youth, as a college student, as a middle school student and say, you know what? We have a chance for you to get involved in this city, and guess what? It's totally free. Everything we do, if we can't underwrite it, the cost of the food, the speaker, the parking, whatever it takes, we don't do it. The next one is the turnkey volunteer opportunities, things like Samaritan's Feet. So when you come out, we mentor in schools, we scrub graffiti off of buildings, we plant trees and flowers, we're doing things like Faith in Action, 12,000 volunteers picking up trash, 90,000 pounds of McKellar Lake, crazy stuff that involves a lot of people, but all you have to do is show up, and that makes it really easy. And then the last one is a pipeline for positive stories. I don't have to tell you and go into this, but when you turn on the 10 o'clock news, that is not a real depiction of what goes on here in Memphis on a given day. And sadly, I travel to Nashville and Los Angeles, all these other cities, they're all the same. Turn on the 10 o'clock news, it's murder, it's traffic accidents, it's negative. And sadly, if they don't have enough negative news in that day, they pull from other cities. So the crazy thing is for us is we say, you know what? And I'm not going to go into all the details, but we said, you know what? If no one else is going to do it, we're going to do it. So we started our own giving back column that's now in the Commercial Appeal on Sundays. We have a radio show on News Radio 600 WREC. We have a book. We have the TV show The Spark on WKNO. We launched the Spark Awards, which is a televised award show honoring individuals, organizations, all doing good. And our whole belief was that if you don't see the good going on here, it's one thing to see the huge 10K races and the thousands of people showing up, but that doesn't happen every day. What does happen every day, though, is people like you giving back, mentoring youth, doing it one-on-one. And it might be slow progression, but what you realize, all of a sudden when you look back over a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, you've made a huge difference by just doing something small every single day. But if we don't see the small every single day and the good that goes on, you get jaded and you become apathetic. And so that's where, for us, launching this huge pipeline of positive news was extremely important. And I'll talk about it for you, but one of the big things that we started with was a newsletter. So just putting out content of positive stories, free nonprofit events, things like that people would just, anything you would want to know, job postings, whatever it was that was good stuff that people could use, that newsletter became a conduit. Well, now all of a sudden we've got over 50,000 people on that newsletter that goes out once a week, and it's all, once again, focused on positive news. But by stepping out of our boundaries and realizing, wait a second, it's not us just putting out our stories, but the stories of others, we all win. It's sharing information. So, back to who we are. Now we're a privately funded catalyst. We have 76 partner companies, some of the world's largest companies, FedEx, AutoZone, Smith & Nephew, Baptist, all the way down to Napa Cafe, Germantown Day Spa. So small, medium, and large companies, underwriting the cost. Last year we did 192 events. So it's a lot. So well over 150 events a year, all focused on enriching and impacting our community. And that's really the beauty of it, is that where we were with 8 events, 12 business partners back in 2005, now we're into our 10th year, to where we are today doing all of this good, it's a monumental change. But it goes back to when I first sat down with the business partners that were involved at the core start of the Lipscomb Pitts Breakfast Club, I asked them, who do you want to meet? What do you want to do? What's your goal with this? And they all said, well, we want to interact with people like Fred Smith and Bill Rose. We want to get to know those types of business leaders. We also, too, want to make a difference. Well, here's the thing. Fred Smith is not going to go to a networking organization. He's not going to go to a networking meeting. Stuff like this is awesome, but Fred Smith isn't going to be here. And so for you to be able to open that door to get to know someone like Fred Smith, you've got to be about the community, because that's what he cares about the most. When you look at outside of his family, outside of the success of FedEx, if you were to ask what are the things that are near and dear to his heart, he's going to open up with things that are about Memphis, about the Mid-South, about our nation. It's all based on the community. Because any business leader, if you ask them, what's important outside of your business and your family, they're going to kick off with things that they're involved with in the community. Because they realize the more the community does well, the more that they do well. Because all of a sudden now, your talent increases for workforce development, your economic vibrancy increases, but also, too, discretionary income increases. So when you look at it, the rising tide lifts all ships. By being able to focus intently on our community, we all win. But that's also, too, where crime, education, poverty, opportunities, all of that goes together. So if we don't work together, then all of a sudden we as business leaders lose out as well. So that's where we kick into some of the things that I think you need to understand. Even in sales, this is extremely important to understand, is what's going on in corporate philanthropy, what's going on in cause marketing, how does all this matter to you? Because once you understand this, then all of a sudden the power's in your hand. One of the biggest things for companies is understanding that it used to be about writing a financial check, giving. Well, now our expectation as consumers is that you're engaged, physically engaged. So you're making the time for your employees to actually get out, get involved, roll their sleeves up, and make a difference together. I've got to see your employees physically involved out there. Because with social media, we're bombarded with information. If I'm at an event and I don't see your... Perfect example, Tim Young, one of the HR guys with AutoZone, was out at our Samaritan's Feet. He's looking around. He's like, you know what? I love coming out to these, but I also love seeing who's here with me. Who's here serving with me. Very powerful. You don't think that's ever being said, but this is coming from someone HR at AutoZone. And I think that says it all. They're noticing who's out there making a difference and doing it for the right reasons, but who's showing up, who's actively showing up. So now it's not just financial, but it's about engagement. It's also, too, consumers are taking into consideration the company's engagement and goodwill when making purchasing decisions. I'll show you some of the quotes. Everything I buy, though, even the shampoo that I buy, it benefits St. Jude. The stuff that I wear benefits organizations that are helping in Africa. So when I look at the decisions that I make on where I purchase my goods and services, if there's not purpose aligned, I'm going to choose somebody else. Tom Shadyac, the best-selling director, producer of company or movies like Bruce Almighty, Ace Ventura, Liar, Liar, Nutty Professor, goes on and on and on. I Am, the documentary, he said it the best. He goes, Starbucks will become our Bucks, Walmart will become our Mart. Because if you're not giving back and making a difference, another company is, and by natural gravitation, by the heartstring pull, consumers are going to go to them and not you, and you're going to be out of business soon. It says it all right there. And we'll show you the quotes in a second. Here's some big ones, and you talk about it, talent and workforce development. Employees, millennials, we see this at Lipscomb and Pitts Insurance, is they fully expect that it's not church on Sunday and Wednesday and giving back on the weekends. They fully expect that you give company time to be able to allow them to be engaged in the community. They fully expect that. And I think that's one of the big things is that we're seeing employees come to us, especially right out of college, saying, I'm not asking you about the paycheck. I'm asking you, what can you do to make me a better person, but also get me involved in the community? Extremely important. So if you want to attract the best talent, you've got to be focused on engagement and taking a leadership role. So here are some headlines. Companies without social impact culture will soon be obsolete, Forbes magazine. Consumers looking at corporate America to be part of the solution. For the first time in history, impressions of openness, sincerity, and authenticity are more important to corporate reputation in the United States than the quality of products and services. Think about that for being in sales. It's all now based on trust. And for you in sales, we're all in sales for one. I mean, Johnny Pitts, perfect example, is like, I don't care what your title is, we're all in sales. But the key is that it's all based on trust. We're all in the trust business. And so when you look at where we're headed now, even more so, how sincere, how authentic are you? So it's based on trust now even more than ever before. So trust. And I wrote, if you follow the giving back column last week, this was a big part of it. The most expensive thing in this world is trust. It can take years to earn and only a matter of seconds to lose. And I think that's really important to understand is you're in the trust business. And so when you look at how do you build trust, the easiest place to build trust is community engagement. So most people think trust is dependability, showing up on time, doing the bare minimum, doing what's required. I look at trust as, and especially in sales, are you the person that people turn to when something goes wrong? When they need something fixed immediately, are you that person? Because if you are, success will find you massively fast if it hasn't already. So I used to be in sales. So I've worked in media sales. I've done all sorts of things with local radio stations. Actually, not knowing a single person here in Memphis, I was working at Dick Clark's radio group, United Stations Radio Networks. Before we moved here, I didn't know a single person. My wife found a first job teaching biology at South Haven High School, so she got a job. So now it was up to me to find something. Started putting feelers out there. And I basically found a connection to Clear Channel Radio through United Stations. They transferred me in, but I was just selling local radio. So when I looked at it is I've always seen myself as more of just a relationship builder, a connector. But that's exactly what I did is I stepped in, and one, it helped that I was able to pull some connections from California at some big media agencies and already come in with some dollars. But also, too, as soon as I got here, I just started reaching out to people and sitting down and saying, hey, look, what are you involved with? How can I help? Yes, I'm here for radio sales. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But more importantly, I want to get to know you and how can I help you? Because chances are, even though I don't know a single person in this city, I can probably help you in some way. And that's exactly how I built trust, and that's exactly how I met Johnny, and that's exactly everything that we do today is all built on trust. But it's doing the things that are unexpected, even unexpected of me, by being proactive and reaching out to someone who I might not even know and just saying, you know what, I don't expect diddly squat in return, I just want to help you. But the beauty is every single time that person circles back when they have a problem, I'm the first person they think of. We were actually just talking about this before. So the prince, we had a prince from Saudi Arabia that came in Monday. And Ronald McDonald House was the one that kind of teed it up to bring him in. He wanted to tour their facility. Corone says, you know what, we don't host people like this. I need your help. I need to put together, and this is at the last second, I need to put together events that bring all these business people. He wants to have breakfast with people like Fred Smith. He wants to do all these different things. I need help. I was the first person she called. Luckily, I was able to pull all this together. But that's my point, is I had been over backwards to help them left and right and all these other things. So when she needed something done, I was the person that she trusted. And that's really, to me, how I built a career in sales, and that also obviously translated over. I'm not going to dive into all this, but it's important to know that people are more productive at work when they actually have outlets to be able to get involved in the community. Volunteerism obviously has massively shifted, so you used to be able to give it to somebody that had a lot of free time and they could rally the troops and bring all this to fruition. Now everybody's so busy, they're faced with time poverty. If you don't make it extremely easy and just give me this much to do, then you're going to lose me. And I think that's really important to know is when you talk about volunteerism and getting people engaged, you got to break it down into really small pieces. So I'm not going to necessarily get into all this kind of stuff, but there's some really easy things that you can do with your company. Things like modified work schedule. Being in sales, you have total flexibility with your schedule usually. I mean, I know there's reports and things to fill out, but you have the advantage to be able to take off a little early or late and go and do things that are geared around the community. Bringing charitable efforts into the office, so food drives, toy drives, organizing nonprofit tours, volunteer days, action projects, things like Casual Fridays, matching employee contributions, leading by example. One of the best things you can do as a salesperson is reach out to your clients and your prospects and figure out what are they involved with. I guarantee if you reach out to someone like Mike Glenn at FedEx, he's going to say, I'm involved with Madonna Learning Center. How cool is it for you to say, you know what, I'm going to set up a nonprofit tour. I'm going to take my team out there, or I'm going to invite some of my clients and my prospects, and I'm going to organize a nonprofit tour of Madonna Learning Center. And then you get to go back to Joe Gilbert, who's the executive director, and say, you know what, my only thing that I want to do, I want to organize this for you. I'm going to bring out my team. I'm going to bring out my leaders. I'm going to bring out some of my business connections. And the only thing I ask is for you to send an email on behalf of me and just say, you know what, I want to thank this person, Jeremy, or whoever, insert your name, and just say thanks for organizing this tour, and we have a lovely day, and take some pictures and forward that out to the board. Mike Glenn is on that email. And so then you get to follow up and you get to say, hey, Mike, you know what? I don't know if you saw Joe's email, but the other day we had an awesome time. We took a tour. We had 10, 15 people out there. We made some great connections. I really think one or two of them has an interest in learning more about Madonna Learning Center. I would love to sit down with you and see how else can I help? And that's the beauty, is it starts to transcend any sort of business context. And all of a sudden now, you're the person that's trusted. You're the person that's helping for all the right reasons. And so this kind of stuff right here, when you start laying in that strategic approach, it helps everybody. This is a big game changer too, and I know it doesn't necessarily apply to you guys, but one-for-one model. So traditionally, when you talk about financial giving for companies, it used to be, what amount of money do we have at the end of the year? Let's donate that. Well, if you had a bad year, especially like in 2008, all of a sudden corporate philanthropy starts going in the tank. So when you look at the last 15 years, of the last 12 of those, really the first 12 of those, over the last 15 years, corporate philanthropy actually went down. And it's because people were waiting until the very end to make their decisions on what they could give, and the money wasn't there. The one-for-one model, though, for everything you buy, everything you purchase, and companies like Tom's Shoes, here locally you have Agape North, as soon as you buy, you give. So it's built in, it's sustainable. And that way, for every single thing that you do, you're able to then hand it over. The book for us, when the publisher approached, I said, look, we'll do a book, but here's my caveat. 100% of the proceeds has to be given away. Well, that was a little game changer. So I was like, we're not going to put any marketing behind you. I was like, well, that's fine. I can live with that. But the neat thing is that as soon as we sell a book, we're able to compound that money and then turn around and give it to a nonprofit that's focused on youth literacy. But that's a big part, is looking at the things that you're doing and figuring out, okay, how can I build in purpose to this and make this extremely easy? So I was a marketing major. Product, price, place, promotion was drilled into me. They added people, process, position after I graduated. My big contingency is purpose. So if you don't have purpose as a company and you don't have purpose as an individual, then you're going to be in trouble. But the beauty is, it's really easy to find your purpose. It's easy to find your passion. And you can weave it all together, and it will massively get you ahead. So here's the other thing that I want to talk about, because it directly correlates to you guys. So when you look at power, where's power? So power, you either have access to a lot of resources, which in many cases is money. So if you have a trust fund, then you're doing really well. Or you have access to a lot of resources, or a lot of influence, a lot of people. And that's what you have. You have access to a tremendous amount of people. So when you look at your influence, that's your power. Well, you can use that power for a lot of good. And also, too, the more you give, the more you receive. No one ever went broke by giving. That's the big tag. But the reality is, I'm a perfect example. I built my whole life on giving back to others and helping others, and it opened up a lot of doors for me personally. And that's a whole other day. But literally everything that I ever wanted in my life in terms of childhood dreams has happened by simply helping other people. So to me, that's the one statement that definitely has opened my eyes. But anyway, talking about creating change, experiential opportunities. But here's the key. If you take nothing else away from this whole day than this, then I'll be happy. So I don't care how much money you have. Money does not solve a single problem physically. Put a dollar bill on the table, can't walk, can't talk, can't shake anybody's hand. Money does not physically solve a single problem. People do. So that's the truth number one. The second truth is that people provide opportunities for people. So I don't care what company you work for, somebody at that organization gave you a chance. They believed in you. So when you look at it, people solve problems, people provide opportunities for people. And the third part of that is that giving back will get you ahead once you start realizing that, okay, people solve problems, so I got to be engaged. If we're going to move our city forward, I've got to be engaged. But also, too, the more I'm engaged, the more people I meet. The more friendly I am, the more outgoing I am, the more my attitude is positive, the more I lift others up, which is like a magnet and draws people in, the more opportunities I'm going to have in my life, professionally and personally. And I think that's the beauty of where all this intersects, is once you realize, okay, writing a check to an organization, that's good, but that's not going to really help me grow. Once I get involved and I start meeting people, all of a sudden that's where the magic happens. So that's the key for everything that we're doing. And then we get into this kind of stuff, creating jobs. I'm a big believer when you talk about entrepreneurialism, I'm talking to entrepreneurial class tomorrow actually, is that we as citizens, as Americans, it's not just enough to create wealth. We want to actually see you focus on job creation. And you're seeing that obviously with the pilots and things like that is, it's focused on, okay, how can we actually lift our community? We've got to be in it together. We've got to focus on jobs. I'm going to highlight a few of these things just because they're free events and you can come out. If you haven't come out before, we'll get you out to one of these soon. There's our 76 partners, different events. There's 192 events that we did. I'm not going to go through all this stuff. Signature breakfast, we still do them 8 times a year. We bring in national guest speakers. Our next speaker is next Friday, Manny Diaz. He was the former mayor of Miami that completely turned their city from being bankrupt to having cash surplus, putting on the map, marketing them. He's going to be a big one. But that's at the Great Hall next Friday. So after that, we have Mark Herzlich. We have, I was trying to think of the whole run, but 8 times a year, follows the school calendar, January, February, off in March, April, May, off June and July, and then August through November. So if you haven't come out to one of those, we'll get you out soon. Just email me. We do a reception the night before, 5:30 to 7. So for Manny Diaz, he's going to be at the University of Memphis, 5:30 to 7 next Thursday night. Totally free. They're all first come, first serve for the most part with these. It's Q&A driven, so you get to interact, shake their hand, whereas the breakfast is more of the presentation. You get networking in the morning with everybody, and you get to meet everybody. But this really is Q&A driven. It's very interactive. We try to keep it smaller, so it's usually 100, 150, so that way you get to really interact with the guest speaker. But all new people coming out, getting involved in this city. We do weekly lunches. We do all sorts of things that are crazy, like sitting on stage with May Ann Chen while she's doing a rehearsal for the symphony. We do Ballet Memphis while they're doing a private rehearsal. We have one coming up in March on, I forgot the date, but where you get to actually go down and see a practice with the Mississippi River Kings, and then you get to interact with their business office and learn what it means to be a professional hockey organization. So we do all sorts of crazy stuff. We do professional connection lunches where we bring business leaders on the campus with college students, talking about things like personal branding, interviewing, resumes. But the beauty is we do it just like this, so you're seated there with business leaders as well as students having these discussions, so you get to meet other business leaders just as much as share your wisdom with the college students. So back to what's in it for me, there's a lot in it for you. Seminars, all sorts of things. There's all the media. I'll just say this, if you're doing good things in the community, let me know and we'll get you on the shows. That's the fun of it to me, is promoting all these amazing things going on here in the Mid-South and letting you be the one to share it. We have the Memphis Rocks Film Festival, or in the film festival, 5-minute or less short films, another easy opportunity for you to share the good stuff you're doing. We put it up on the silver screen with filmmakers all around the world. You have the Memphis Rocks t-shirts that are 100% give back to the Fallen Officer Memorial. We have shirts being worn all over the world, like on the Great Wall of China, which is pretty cool. We're doing the Fallen Officer Memorial. I'm not going to go into all this kind of stuff, but these are all some of the things that we do. There's D'Angelo and all the NFL players we had come in, McKellar Lake, 90,000 pounds of trash. But this is all the stuff we're doing. Buy local, which is a big part of it. So here's where it starts getting into the fun for you. Quick little things. One is, and this is an example, is stuff that you're already doing, stepping back and saying, okay, how can I add purpose to this? How can I add one more layer so that everything I'm doing actually benefits somebody else? And this is what we try on our end intently to do with the Breakfast Club, is take the stuff we're already doing, add a layer so it benefits somebody else. Perfect example. You're going to be doing watch parties with Memphis Grizzlies. You've got your friends and family coming over. You're going to provide food and drinks already. So why not make it a beneficial watch party? Why not tell them, hey, whatever you'd spend on dinner or lunch, we're going to give that money to an organization. We're going to have literature out there. You'll be surprised if you invite the nonprofit. Sometimes they'll actually have people show up with the nonprofit as representatives, hang out with you, and talk about it all day long. I had a friend that actually did this over football season. He raised $15,000 by having people over at his house watching NFL games just on Sundays. Imagine if he would have put college in there as well. $15,000. He was shocked. He's like, I'm just going to try it and see what happens. And he wrote me back after the Super Bowl. He's like, we raised $15,000. And that's huge. And it was stuff he was already doing. I mean, that's the beauty. He didn't do a single thing different other than just say, hey guys, you're already coming over? Let's add purpose to this. Let's make it benefit somebody else. And that way, even if your team loses, you still win. So here's where it starts getting into the piece of it. It gives you a unique storyline, it gives you opportunities, and it develops you personally and professionally. A unique storyline is massively important. So we talk to college students all the time on their personal brand, who they are. Well, here's the thing, and in sales too, I mean, you see it a lot, is everybody tries to commoditize what you do, right? So you're just a part of the equation. Everybody graduates with an A. Everybody is involved on campus. But what's your unique storyline? And that's where, and you'll see in the tips section in just a second, is I encourage you to get involved with at least 2 different nonprofits. One is a big one that everybody knows. And then pick one that's a little smaller that you can actually tangibly make a difference in. And that's where, especially in sales, marketing is a really easy one, getting on things like steering committees, event committees, things like that. But the value there is that, just kind of back to the idea of the Madonna Learning Center, is you get to actually have a quantifiable difference that you can make. And that's where you get to say, okay, I made this huge difference. You have the big one that everybody knows, so you get to start off with that one, especially in conversations. But then you have the small one where you're actually making a real difference. And that's a huge part, because when you know, I'll give you an example. Johnny Pitts. If you're coming in and you're talking sales with him, you have less than 5 minutes. If you're selling something to Johnny Pitts, you have 5 minutes tops. I've literally seen him turn around and be working while someone is sitting there pitching because he's already lost interest. Exact same day, though, that I saw that, somebody walked in who was in sales, different, it wasn't the same industry, but same idea, exact same day as I'm watching this. Someone walked in and they let off, they'd done their homework, they let off and they knew he was big into Boy Scouts. The first 45 minutes was focused on Scouts, Eagle Scout, Philmont, like all of these different scouting experiences. And Johnny, 45 minutes in, was still just glowing. And that's the difference. Someone had done their homework, they'd figured out, what's Johnny's story? How can I match my story to his story? And next thing you know, the 2 of them for 45 minutes, whereas the exact same day, someone was in there and he gave him less than 5 minutes and was already tuned out. And so when you talk about it, you know, what is your story? What's your unique story? What are the things you're involved with? What are the things you're passionate about? If you don't have something, that's really tough, because back to the point of, with all these business leaders, the first thing that they're going to care about outside is not your business. They're going to care about, what are you doing in the community to make it better? So I'm going to kind of get into some of this. Actually, the other thing I'll say too is, you know, when you talk about getting your hands dirty, you learn a lot, obviously. You're interacting with all these people. Volunteerism, to me, is the easiest thing, because if you're good at anything, people get to see it. People that are on the boards that are extremely powerful. So all of a sudden now you have a chance to be seen, and be seen doing something really good, and that's where the trust kicks in. And so that's where also the opportunities kick in. So here's some quick things on our end, and I'll just go through a few quick tips. One is sign up for our free newsletter. That is all of our events. You can actually see our newsletter online at any time, so it's all out there. It's all at thelpbc.com. Come out to our events. They're all free. Get involved. You can meet all of our people. You can network like crazy. It's easy. But look at opportunities to host things like the tours, nonprofit days, executive lunches, I mean, you name it. Sharing positive stories is another piece of that. So helping us, you know, share your positive stories. Here's the keys. To me is, one, if your company doesn't have purpose, that's already a problem. Help your company figure that part out. So what are the nonprofits you're going to align with? What are the things that you can actually get engaged with? But also, two, you yourself as a person. You want to have things that you're involved with physically, personally. And when I mean personally, not just writing a check, getting your hands dirty, making a difference. And you want to have those quantifiable results. Also, two, use your social media. So all of you are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of that. You are an ambassador. Once you figure out those nonprofits you're aligned with, make sure every single, you know, at least once a week, you're sharing positive stories, because once again, people notice that, they see that, you become a massive ambassador. Use your company's marketing resources to help nonprofits. I used to do this all the time in media. I would kick off with, what are the things you're involved with? Because I'm going to find a way to get them on the radio. I'm going to find a way to get them involved. Using your company's resources to do things like sponsoring the nonprofit events, being that conduit, makes you look like the rock star. But all you have to do is provide access, and you get to use your company's resources to be able to do that. Do your homework ahead of time. This is the biggest thing. You can come and you can ask any event. So like even today, reach out to the people that are hosting it and say, who's going to be there? Just give me a few names. Go on LinkedIn, go on Google, look at what they look like, figure out what they're involved with, and not just with their business, but actually with their nonprofits. Every single one of us, we put our boards up on LinkedIn, we put them up everywhere. You can find what we're involved with. It's not hard, it takes like 5 seconds. But do your homework ahead of time showing up to an event, because guess what? Instead of you just being the guy that's bouncing around all over the place, now you get to have real conversations with people saying, hey, you know what? Aren't you on the board of Big Brothers Big Sisters? Aren't they bringing in Richard Montanez in April? He's the guy that created Flamin' Hot Cheetos, right? How can I help? Dramatic different conversation. You'll be the person that they actually remember, not the people just asking about their business. So doing your homework ahead of time is huge. Being a connector. If you're involved with a nonprofit and you're on a host committee, All you have to do is sit there and introduce people. Hey, this is so-and-so, this is so-and-so. You look like a rock star. You're already good at it. You have 1 million influences already. You know everybody. All you have to do is be the guest, to be the connector. Last few, reach out, volunteer, finding ways to get involved, champion a cause that relates to your business, find an event and effort you can be your calling card. That's a big piece of it. Samaritan's Feet for us is a calling card. It's a heartstring pull, but everybody knows us by the Samaritan's Feet. So finding your own Samaritan's Feet is a huge one. That way you get to leverage it. A newsletter. So many of you already have a newsletter, but take in things that are the community related and push that out as part of it. All of a sudden your newsletter will grow virally pretty fast once you start bringing in all these outside pieces. Be creative, doing things like making gifts to a nonprofit and name a client or prospect. That's a big one. Even on my end, if I'm reaching out to people and I don't know and I find something that they're involved with, I'll reach out, make a contribution in their name, and then follow up with them. And these are people that I might not even know. Really cool way to open a door. But that's a big one. So strategic. Offer to volunteer for their nonprofit, very much like I said in Madonna Learning Center. And then the last piece of this is remember that people solve problems, people provide opportunities. That is the biggest key, is that everything we do is built on trust, but it's all built on people helping people. And so with that, I am done. There's our last little tag, think big, start small, act now. That's our whole philosophy. And beyond that, I'll take some questions. So I think we have, at least according to my watch, 4 minutes. So you have 4 minutes to ask questions. I try to make sure doing events that you're out on time, especially on my end. So fire away for 4 minutes, all in all. 3 minutes and 49 seconds now. And we'll answer questions.
What I liked, one of the things that you mentioned, was the fact that you don't have to do a lot to sign up or be in some of these things. So what, for instance, would be coming up and how do we do it? Do we just show up? How's that work?
So everything is online on our end. And you'll appreciate this, back to strategy, is the partners have access to see who's coming out to all the events so that they, in real time, can see, hey, this is so-and-so, and they're involved in so-and-so, so they can do their homework. Extremely important. But the bottom line is everything on our end is totally free. You can log in to the website, and you can see everything. You don't have to log in. The easiest place to go is just go to thelpbc.com, click on the newsletter, and it has every single thing right there known to mankind. And so we have next Thursday, 5:30 to 7 at the University of Memphis, Manny Diaz. Next Friday morning, that's a little different because we're running pretty tight on seating. But if you'll email me you want to go to the breakfast next Friday at the Great Hall with Manny Diaz, I'll find a few seats for you, and then we'll just kind of make sure that you're invited over time for the rest of this year. But those are up there. We have a board training tomorrow with the Assisi Foundation. So that's Board Training 101. So for those that have never been on a board before and want to ask all the right questions and know what you're getting yourself into, we have that tomorrow from 12 to 1:30, and it's free. So all of these things are on the website. But all you have to do is log in, RSVP online, because that way we know head count-wise, like for food, how much to order and stuff. But it's all totally accessible, super easy. And not only for yourself, but for anybody that's involved that you say, hey, this would be something they'd be interested in. I mean, anybody that's involved in political science or law or government or politics would love Manny. Anybody who's looking to join a board would be great tomorrow to come out. It's all just free, great content that's to help you out.
You had mentioned when you had come to speak with us before at our company, you mentioned that there is a woman or a website that you can go to where she will hook you up as far as if you have what time and what you're interested in doing as far as volunteer work and help you get in.
Correct.
I don't know if you had that information.
Yes, so Volunteer Odyssey is actually what you're talking about, Sarah Pechnick. And there are a couple of organizations we work with heavily, so we're a collaborator. But Volunteer Odyssey, I think it's volunteerodyssey.org. But Sarah Pechnick, that's exactly what she does, is she matches where you have time available to what you're good at and helping you to volunteer. And obviously, too, I don't know if you saw the news, but Volunteer Mid-South being kind of taken over and acquired by Leadership Memphis, and now it's Volunteer Memphis. They're a big part of that as well. So behind the scenes, we're working with all these different groups to be able to activate volunteerism and take it to the next level. But there are a lot of groups that strategically will make it really easy for you so you can find gaps.
First of all, kudos to you, Jeremy, and to Richmond Kids. I'm just in awe of everything you've done, and I know my organization, SERS, has benefited too from things that you've done. I'm curious, because I know this hasn't been your purpose, but I'm curious, what kind of growth have you seen in the business, just on your footprint of making a difference in Memphis? Do you have like a percentage growth or anything?
So, well, I mean, I can tell you this. So the crazy story is our own agency wasn't really sold on this. So coming in, as you can imagine, one, it's a lot of, we paid double the amount to actually buy out the franchisee, buy out the franchise rights. So our own agency thought, why is an insurance agency buying a networking organization? And then, why in the world would you hire somebody from Los Angeles to come run this, who doesn't know anybody in the city, basically? But Johnny Pitt saw something in me, and that's where, for me, I'll forever be grateful. But even my wife kind of thought I was crazy, because here's the other thing is they couldn't even pay me. They're like, well, we can't pay you to run the Breakfast Club because there's really nothing there. Like, we just paid a fortune to buy it out. We'll hire you to run the marketing for the agency, and then on the side, let's see if we take this Breakfast Club. So not that I was the black sheep, but I came in with people saying, why in the world are we doing this? And so now, actually it was about 3 years ago, there's my time, we did an audit to figure out what is the Breakfast Club value for our agency, and it was $1.6 million for just that 1 year. And that was just new business that had been developed. Yeah, so $1.6 million. So that's when they asked me to be an owner in the company, and they have let me since do whatever I want. So, right, exactly. That was the thing is, when you talk about cause marketing in general, and philanthropy, all these things go together. When you talk about doing the right thing, there's never an immediate result. So in sales-driven organizations, which all of you, this is what you report to, in Lipscomb and Pitts is a perfect example. We're a sales-driven organization. So we expect, and we can quantify, for every number of cold calls, you get this amount of meetings. For every this amount of meetings, you get this amount of deals, and da-da-da-da. So there is a tangible expectation that when I do something, whatever it is, that I can quantify within a certain amount of time that something will happen. Cause marketing doesn't work that way. Cause marketing and philanthropy and everything we're talking about is you're doing the right thing over and over and over again with almost blind faith that it's going to pay off. But here's the beauty of it, which I've seen firsthand. My whole life is an example of this, is that when you do it for all the right reasons, it may not happen when you want it to happen, but when it does, it is a massive windfall, avalanche, tidal wave of really good things that happen. And you can't sit there and pinpoint, it's like, well, when was that moment that I did this? Or when was it that? It's the culmination of all the things that you do. And that's where even us as an organization, you can't pull out the business development from all the philanthropy because they go together. It's the full cake. It's the full cupcake. It's Muddy's cupcake. It's the Prozac cupcake. You can't eat one piece of it and not the other. It's all together. And so that's the point, is that you can't separate the good you do in the community with the success that you're going to have with your business and in your personal life. And that's where you do have to have a little bit of blind faith, but ultimately when you do, amazing things happen. So with that, I will end so that we can end on time, and I will say thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeremy. It was wonderful hearing from you. And
Oh, awesome.
here is a gift for
I love
you.
coffee,
Yeah, I know.
and I love ugly mug.
Oh, he wants to.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I know. We do.
Yeah, one more time.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you again. I have a couple of things.